This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir and Josh Fenwick. Josh, thank you so much for filling in the last couple of weeks as we had a nice family holiday south of the border, and you did a fantastic job. A couple of just wonderful shows.
I appreciate that, Paul. It was a lot of fun. I was happy to do it. And yeah, if you ever need it done again, shameless plug, I'd be happy to.
Well, I don't mind the shameless plug at all, and that certainly will be the call, I'm sure.
Oh, awesome.
In the not too distant future. But welcome, everybody. This has been such a dynamic time in the world of basketball. As you all know, we just completed March Madness on Monday night. What a great run. I think the dynamics of this March Madness were unique in many respects because of the transfer portal. I mean, we had the University of Michigan Wolverines' first championship since 1989. They are the first team in NCAA history with 5 first-year transfers as their starters, and they win the national championship. And we may even touch on that about, is that going to be now a trend or even more of a trend in the NCAA? UCLA Bruins on the women's side with a very, very decisive victory. And we have a great show today, and I'm going to be talking about a lot in depth in the weeds with Ben Golliver again, who joins us in our second hour for the deep dive. I've got a pre-record. We've got pre-records for the 2 segments in the deep dive, and then you can listen to the full conversation on our podcast after the show is over. But we also have on today somebody we've never had the opportunity to have on before, and his name is Vince Chang. And Vince is someone who has been to Edmonton many times related to the FIBA 3x3 events that we've run here. Vince is in charge of entertainment, and I'll give you his intro in the second segment when we bring Vince on. But if you were there, you saw Vince because he kept the crowd engaged. He kept them entertained. And he also has a great basketball mind. He's a very good player as well. And we're going to talk about the FIBA 3x3 season, which is kicking off around the world, literally, as we go. But let's start right away and dive into 3+1. Oh, before we do that, our text line, 833-401-1440, 833-401-1440. If you have any comments or questions, please let us know at our text number. But Josh, we have a little bit of a different approach this week to our 3+1. I'm going to answer your questions. I'm not going to devise them. I feel like I've been cheating, Josh. And so now we have to have a pop quiz. Yeah. So I'm excited to get into this with you.
I'm excited to see what our thoughts are on these ones. So, number 1, the NBA season wrapping up tomorrow. All 30 teams in action. The play-in in the West is set. All that's left is to see who snags the 6th seed in the East, currently held by the Raptors. If they want to play in the actual postseason, they have to beat the Nets, or I believe they will not win in the play-in.
Interesting, because if they play, who do they have in the play-in? They would have the...
It really depends.
Yeah, because there's movement in the play-in as well as on the 6th seed, like you said, that the Raptors hold. Now, things are looking really good for the Raptors because they've had a bit of a surge here. They had 2 real strong wins over the Heat this week. They've played really well. Brandon Ingram has been on a tear. I think when we talked last weekend, we talked about the need for the Raptors to start putting something together to build some momentum going into the playoffs. And I really think they have, Josh. And the Nets, my gosh, I looked at their lineup from their most recent game, and on a horrible team, they didn't even have many of their starters, if any of their starters, even playing. It really looked like a G League team. So I think the odds are in the Raptors' favor. And what you're saying is that if the Raptors beat the Nets, they control their own destiny, and then they are the 6th seed, correct?
Correct. If they beat the Nets, they keep the 6th seed. If they lose and the Magic lose, then the Sixers go to that 6th spot. If the Magic win and the Raptors lose, the Magic go to the 6th spot, and the Raptors will be playing the 76ers.
Well, the 76ers aren't that daunting right now because Embiid, it looks like they put him on the shelf again. Man, oh man, talk about fragile packaging with that poor guy, because the in and out of his seasons, not just this season, his seasons, his career is just too bad, because you've got a guy who was a league MVP, really a stellar big man. He had a real nice facing the basket game, can shoot the three, et cetera, but it just hasn't been able to put together healthy seasons at all. So the Sixers are going to enter the playoffs wounded. Looks like the Raptors will be at or real close to full strength with everybody playing in the most recent games. So I think that scenario of a play-in game isn't as daunting as you make it out if it's with the Sixers. Now, if it's with the Magic, Josh, your point is, I think, 100% on. That's going to be a tough win for the Raptors to try to pull together.
Yeah, like where I come out from it is these are all teams that are going for the playoffs, right? This is as close to playoff basketball as you get in the play-in without actually being in the playoffs. And the Raptors are horrendous from the three-point line.
Yes, they are.
And when you're going up against a team that wants to be in the playoffs, they are game planning for you. If they just stuff the middle and force them to the outside, I have some serious problems if the Raptors are going to be able to cash or not. And then if they lose that first matchup, obviously they're going to be playing the winner of that 9-10, who I vehemently believe is going to be the Hornets, because I think them being in the 9 spot just isn't fair of what the Hornets are, especially in the second half of the season.
Absolutely.
And to me, that is a bona fide loss.
Very well could be. And I think you're right on the mark. Like, you would not favor the Raptors in that matchup at this juncture of the season, because the Hornets, the reason they're in the position they're in is because of a horrendous start, which was flipped 180 degrees into a phenomenal second half of the season. The Hornets have been very good. And I think, Josh, what impresses me the most about the Hornets is they're not just beating the Patsies. They're not just beating teams with worse records than they have. They're beating good teams, and they're beating good teams on the road. So the Hornets, they're a bit of a nightmare. There's a couple of teams in the East that are nightmares. Hornets are one, Hawks are another, that are playing really good basketball and are going to be formidable adversaries when you go into the playoffs. But I agree with you. The Raptors should be able to. I have a 99.9% certainty that the Raptors will control their own destiny. They will finish with the 6th seed, but that's not a beautiful seed to get into either, because now you've got to play the Knicks, who are playing well, and the Knicks present real matchup problems. And like you say, the glaring weakness over a multi-game series of the Raptors' inability to consistently knock down the threes gives any defensive-oriented team like the Knicks a real playoff advantage.
Absolutely, no doubt. Let's move over to number 2 here, shall we? All right, so we saw the national champion crowned on Monday in Michigan, winning over UConn 69-63. Lots of talk about whether this is the greatest college team of all time. I want to know where you come out on that. And furthermore, will Dusty May make the jump from the NC2A to the NBA?
Well, number one, I don't even know why anybody would ask that question about Michigan being the greatest team of all time, because it's a stupid question. Of course they're not. They're a good team. They're a real good team. 5 transfers. They're huge. They're really well coached. Their point guard is great. Their big kid who came from UCLA, and Ben Golliver and I talk about him and how he was coached at UCLA compared to how Dusty May coached him in Michigan this year, and really brought the best out with him. But yeah, they're a really good team. Are they the best team of all time? I don't think so. I think you could put them in the conversation, maybe, but I don't see them as I never watched them play and thought, God, this is the greatest team of all time. This is a really good basketball team in the NIL open portal transfer situation that we have in the NCAA. But I don't even know why people bring that up and say that, because I don't think we have anything close to a sample size. Let's look at the great UCLA teams. And I'm not saying that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, as Lou Alcindor, and his teams would beat Michigan today. They would not. Would Kareem be able to play with them? Absolutely. He would have dominated the big kid from Michigan. And UCLA, with modern training, et cetera, would have a much better team in this era as well. But I look at that era. I look at the eras following Magic Johnson's Michigan State team, some of the great Duke teams over the years that I think are really, really good. But when you start getting into talking about greatest of all time, man, oh man, you got to do a deep, deep look into what you're talking about to validate what you're saying, because you're also then having to say they were a great team playing great competition, and you would really have to evaluate that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean,
do you think that there's a chance that they should be in that conversation? I guess
I don't even think they're the best Michigan team. Like, I know the Fab Five didn't win it, but come on, like, it's the Fab Five. Like, let's be real here.
Yeah, I would if those two teams matched up, I would pick the Fab Five to win. If they play 10 games, I'd pick them to win 7 of them. 7 or 8 of them, to be honest, because I thought the Fab Five were better.
That being said, this year's Michigan team, I think they had coach is sitting next to me, so he'll be able to give me a head nod if I'm right. Like a top 3 KenPom rating of all time, like defense and of all time. Like, that is ludicrous.
It is,
but it is also
great,
modern day ball. I see where you're coming from,
and it's another analytics nerds over evaluation saying this is what makes great teams. Their numbers, their stats, they're relevant in one respect, but they're snapshots in other, and statistics are so overstated when you start getting into greatest of or just MVP, things like that. To me, there's still the eye test, there's still emotion, there's still character, there's still longevity. There are all these other human factors that are harder to measure than on the stats. But of course, Josh, I'm not a huge analytics guy that says that's what should be the be all end all in decision making. It should be part of your planning, part of your decision making. But there are so many other factors that are much, much more significant and important in building a successful culture and team.
Oh, absolutely. I get where you're coming from. Did you answer on if you think Dusty May will make the jump or not?
I don't really know. I really don't know. But I would take the question in a slightly different direction, as opposed to Calipari or Pitino, who had ill-fated attempts to jump from the NCAA to the NBA. I would equate their failure based on their college styles, or their coaching styles rather, because they tried to coach in the NBA like they coached in college. The one thing about the modern day athlete at the NCAA level is that athlete is more similar in terms of how you have to coach them to the NBA players of today than the NCAA players of the past, when players were expected to just put their head down and run through walls and just, be berated by the coaches and do whatever they said. Like Pitino went to Boston. He was trying to run 2-2-1 zone presses, play a college up-tempo game, failed miserably, horribly. It was an unmitigated disaster. I do think May's demeanor and style would make him someone who could make the transition into the NBA successfully because of the way he relates to his players. Plus, he's a real smart basketball guy, and it was impressive. Although, and I do, again, touch on this in my conversation with Ben Golliver, there were a lot of times when I was watching Michigan play, and I'm wondering, they were really successful at times in their isolation of big guys with size advantages in the low post. But a lot of times their spacing was horrendous. And part of the reason they were 1 for 100 from the 3 in the championship game, part of the reason is their spacing was god awful. So some of their systems, I would say, they either they didn't execute that night, or UConn's defense bothered them enough that they changed it up. But overall, going back to the original point I was making, Dusty May's coaching demeanor, style, personality, I think is well suited to the NBA player of today.
I agree with you on that one. Let's move over to number 3 here, and this is pretty simple. Who are your winners for the major awards in the NBA this season? So I'm talking MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, and Most Improved Player.
The easiest award there's two that are no-brainers. SGA as MVP, as good as Wemby is, as great as Jokic is, SGA is way out in front of everybody because of the kind of season that he had on the best team in the league. And I think that what makes his performance more significant is now he's at 140 games of scoring 20 or more.
That sounds right.
Yep. So, I mean, his consistency, his efficiency, shooting, I think it's 55% from the floor for the year, like shooting a higher percentage than Wilt and Kareem, I believe, in their heydays. So I think I take that back. Wilt would shoot over 70% with the Lakers because all he did was dunk. But when he was a more versatile offensive player, I mean, SGA's efficiency is off the chart. He is a lethal weapon that can score any number of ways, probably the most creative scorer. And I would put Michael Jordan into this conversation for the first time. He's a more creative scorer than Michael Jordan was. And I think he's maybe the most creative scorer of all time. People can say that about Luka Doncic too, but I would give SGA the nod. So easy for MVP for me. Defensive Player of the Year, Wemby. I mean, easy. So easy. So I think, you've got two awards that are just out of the gate going to be overwhelming majorities for those two players. Now, we'll go with your order. Number one, who do you pick as MVP, Josh?
Look, my MVP, I need to preface this. I will not be upset if SGA wins the MVP. I'm on the Wemby hype train. I believe Wemby is the MVP. However, it seems far and away that this is SGA's award just from all the polls and everything done in advance at places like ESPN and The Athletic. I wish it was closer because it definitely feels like it's closer, but like SGA will win the MVP. I wish Wemby would win the MVP.
It wouldn't be heartbreaking to have Wemby win the MVP. I just don't know how he can win the MVP. As great as San Antonio's, I take that back. San Antonio's turnaround this year is fantastic. Its turnaround over the last 2 years is fantastic. And you have to attribute that to Wemby. SGA, to your point, has been the greatest player on the best team and defending NBA champions. So, but I think here's where the nuance comes in. It wasn't like the Thunder were healthy all year.
It's true.
And Jalen Williams, their other NBA All-Star, has been hurt much of the year. And when he's been playing, he hasn't been the same player. Now, other players have stepped up. Their talent depth is fantastic. But it still comes down to, I think, the consistency of SGA and the way he is night in and night out, just able to dominate on the offensive end. And it's not like he's not a good defensive player, and it's not like he's not a good passer. Yep. He's a great passer too.
I agree.
But your point, if Wemby got it, it would be an upset. It wouldn't be though. And I mentioned this to Ben Golliver. The thing I find interesting about a couple of the races, Rookie of the Year and the MVP this year, that are so unique is that the bar has been raised.
Oh, yeah.
Because you look at what SGA did, but then you look at Wemby, you look at Jokic, you look at Luka before he's doing whatever the heck Luka's doing now. What a head case. And Jaylen Brown, and you go down, Cade Cunningham, my God, the baseline for MVP, all of those players that I just mentioned in other seasons, with the seasons they've had this year, could be MVPs. And the same goes for the next category I would touch on, which is Rookie of the Year. I'm not going to go first. You are.
Yeah. All right. I think Con Knippel. I think for the same reason that you made for SGA just across the season.
Yes.
I think that's Con. Now, to be fair, in the case of Cooper Flagg, for the first month of the season, I think Jason Kidd was starting Cooper Flagg at point guard just to get Nico Harrison fired. And his numbers didn't look great.
Well, thank goodness it worked.
Yeah. And then at the turn of the new year, essentially, he starts playing his game. He scores 49 in a game. And then a month and a half later, he scores 50 in a game. And then the next day, he scores, what was that, 45. Yeah. So, like, I can see where all of that comes from. But I think with what you're saying is the the level is just the bar keeps being raised by these guys because it's so tight. That's where you have to go back and look at the beginning of the year. And Con is contributing to winning basketball at an incredibly high level. He's on the best line or best 5-man lineup in the NBA this season with like
Incredible.
1,000 possessions played, and they're 2 points better than the next line.
Incredible. And I mean, that's a good measuring stick for the improvement of Charlotte. And I guess where I would agree with you, and there'll be more discussions on this later too, but I would agree with you. Cooper Flagg, if Cooper Flagg gets it, you can say, yep, understood. But I think Con Kneppel should get it as well. I think just his consistency and his body of work. And I go back and forth on this. I've waffled on this back and forth. Cooper's had some down games at times, but he's on an awful team. He has nobody to get him the ball. What's impressive about Cooper is so much of what he's done is as a result of what he's able to do one-on-one.
Absolutely.
And that's just really impressive. So to have those two, and again, I would go to that baseline. You take the next probably 5 rookies that have had great seasons. Other seasons, they would have been in the running, not necessarily voted as Rookie of the Year, but like VJ Edgecombe. I mean, this guy's really good, and his numbers are great. So there are players with great rookie year numbers that are going to be extremely good, long career players in the NBA. So, but I would at this point today, right now at this moment, I would go with Con. And the fact that he leads the NBA in 3-pointers made at the efficient level that he shoots them at, what a great player. Okay, so we're going to take a break right now. We'll finish up the awards and we'll do our +1 as well a bit later in the show. But we're going to take a break right now because we're going to be bringing in Vince Chang, and we're going to talk about FIBA 3x3. You'll want to listen to this. This guy is worth the listen. Vince is an entertaining, funny, exciting guy. So we'll be right back. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick here on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
Did I hit the right button?
Performance in Sherwood Park. The art of skate fitting and sharpening is all customized to the athlete. Artisanally handcrafted and 100% human. For you or your athletes, book an appointment today and experience the difference.
Skate performance where precision meets passion.
Visit AlignSkate.com to learn more.
If you're without personal health insurance benefits from your employer and are self-employed or retiring, contact Innovative Benefits. Innovative Benefits helps break down personal health plans to put you in the driver's seat and reduce your net cost. They'll help identify the best plan for you and your family so you can pay for what you do use and look how to reduce what you don't use. Don't be left out in the cold. Understand all your options with Innovative Benefits. For more information, visit innovativebenefits.ca today.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440, powered by Subaru. Welcome to Uncommon. Visit Subaru.ca.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park2Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back to Hoop City. Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick with you today. I'll tell you what, if one of my favorite songs of all time, Margaritaville by the late, great Jimmy Buffett. And of course, one of the many business ventures aside from his music that Jimmy Buffett had was a string of bars and restaurants called Margaritaville. Now, if there was a guy I could pick that I'd want to go have a margarita with at Margaritaville, it would be my next guest, Vince Chang. Vince, how are you today?
I'm good. How you doing, sir? It's been a while.
It's been a while, been too long, but I'm really glad to have you on the show today. And we have to make good on that statement I just made. We got to go have a margarita together sometime.
It's a little early for that, man. 12:25, but I'm always down for a good time with you,
I'm
sir.
not talking about time. I'm not talking about now, buddy. But anyway, Vince Chang is the media manager of FIBA 3x3. And if you ever went to any of our FIBA events here in Edmonton, you would have seen Vince. He was the guy in the colorful shorts, wearing the jersey, his hat on backwards, running through the stands, out on the court, making sure everybody that is there is having a great time. He's also part of an Emmy-winning, award-winning as a statistician at the Paris Olympics with the great voice of FIBA 3x3, Kyle Montgomery. And he also is known as the energy of FIBA 3x3. So, Vince, you've been with 3x3 for a long, long time. Talk about how you got involved with your role with FIBA 3x3 and why you have stuck with it and why you enjoy it so much.
That's a crazy story, and thank you so much for asking that, because it's one of those situations that you never know who's watching. Because I got into 3x3 because I started as a stand-up comedian in New York City, and I had one of my guys named Sam Mushman, another tall guy. But you know, when you're over 6 feet and a lot of people are smaller, you recognize people at a bar or a club. You're like, hey, I can see you. You see me? All right, cool. We got really cool, and he was like, hey, we're both comics. Would you want to do a podcast about college basketball and comedy? I'm like, sounds dope. And we called it Backcourt Violation. We did this about like 6-8 years ago. We literally were in a studio, not like yours right now. You guys doing great production, but the studio, you could touch wall to wall with both your hands like this. Like literally, it wasn't like Kawhi Leonard. It was like that small. We did it for 2 years, and the goal was to get on ESPN and do stuff like that. And he got the call. They didn't call me, which was fine. So we called it a day. We had a good time. You know, the podcast was whatever. And then 2 years after that, I get a random LinkedIn message from someone you may know, Michael Ranovich from 3Ball USA, and also Victoria Gulnick. And again, LinkedIn was new for me. I'm like in my 20s. I'm thinking it's a spam. They're like, hey, this is a new game called 3x3. You want to be a part of it? Yeah, we know you got energy and you're a comedian. We're going to fly you all over the country. You're going to be great. And I'm going, sure. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just working my full-time job and stand-up comedy, getting paid in hot dogs and $5. So why not? And it consolidated. We're out in California, you know, Silicon Valley. And it was in like this parking lot outside the mall. And it was the first time I was getting experience with the game. I know 10-minute sprint, 12 seconds shot clock. I met, you know, the legends, you know, Dusan Bullet out there, Dejan Majstorovic, a couple of Chinese players, Kareem Maddox, and then Disco Damo, which you know, Antoine Morcat. Like, it was crazy. And I'm hosting this thing, and I'm just in it. Like, I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm trying to become, I just say, everybody knows I have a lot of energy. And what the funny thing is, I didn't know how big I can go. And one of my best stories about this, it was the first time I was accepted of being me, because I had a handler, and I forget his name, but every time I would do something, he would say, hey, man, you got to calm down, do this, whatever, cool, whatever. And it was the last day. We got like 8 games, you know, with the quarters, semis, all of them. And I'm going crazy the first game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go up because I'm the MC. I mean, shout out to my man Lazarus, you know, Q, like he kills it over there. But I was like, yo, I'm having a good time. It's just dope. And I kind of was watching Noah a little bit, but didn't know. But I said I could just be myself. And I remember after the first game, my handler says, hey, man, you got to calm down. You got to chill out. And I was deflated because my whole MO was like I was always too much. You're too energetic. You're too funny. You're too whatever. So I'm just sitting in the corner all sad. And he was like, hey, man, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm sorry, bro. I didn't mean to embarrass you. This happens all the time in my career. I go crazy. I promise I'm going to calm down. I'm going to be structured. I'm going to represent 3Ball USA correctly. He was like, what the heck is wrong with you? I told you to calm down because you got 7 more games. You're going to burn yourself out. I'm like, what? Oh, you don't know. And then it was just on and on from there. And Kyle Montgomery was there. He said, hey, man, I really enjoy your energy. I think we got something for you. And before you know it, Julian DeBove, one of the OGs when it comes to 3x3, gave me a call and said, hey, do you want to do some stuff on Twitch? And from that opened up this gateway of everything, working with FIBA, being on like Shots Fired, having my own show, and then testing me out being a media manager, because I actually went to the AmeriCup when they had it in Miami, Florida during COVID. People don't realize I was not hired for that at all. I bought my own ticket and said, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. Got my own hotel because everybody knew me from Twitch. I already had the gear just like this. Yo, shout out to FIBA. Appreciate you, Julian. And then I'm there. People are recognizing me after I take off my mask. Like, Vince, you're from Twitch. But no one knew. I never had a pass. Somehow, I have a camera crew and a microphone, and I'm running around interviewing people. I did the promo video for the AmeriCup in Miami and did not get paid a cent. But that was my investment in myself. And then it just started to snowball. Since I live in New York, it was easier for me to fly to Edmonton, which again, you had amazing, showings over there. When we were in the parking lot, it was crazy when Serbia won. And of course, Canadian women, they always dominate. Shout out to the Plouffe sisters and Paige Crozone and also Casey, the crazy one. And then we just had it last year in the mall, which was bonkers. If y'all want to have an experience with 3x3, go in a mall, because not only we're on the court, you got people on the second one going, what's this? This is great. And kids are watching and people are cheering. They don't know what they're cheering for, but then they realize, oh, this is like real basketball just with that street feel. And that's when the Street from the Olympics come through. And before you know it, it just fit my personality. And then I got an opportunity to work for NBC, and that got me an Emmy. And it was all starting of, one, betting on myself, doing what I love, not really paying attention who's watching, but people were watching. And to tie all this together, I hit up Michael Ranovich and Victoria Gudnik years later. I said, hey, everything's going well. You kept saying I was going to be great with this. Why did you choose me? And they said, look, we found out you were funny. You knew basketball. You did also a podcast called Backcourt Violation. I'm like, you listen to that? It's like, yeah, we found it randomly because we needed someone who was funny and knew basketball. And also your last name is Chang because we have a contract with China. I don't know any Chinese. I'm Jamaican Chinese. I'm terrible at Chinese. But anyway, got the ticket to go to China, and you hit every single box. So we just bet on you. And literally from that one show that I thought no one was going to watch, and I've now traveled the world, been a part of at least 8 different events when it comes to 3x3, got to work with one of the number one, newscasting broadcasters in the world, and met so many different people from different walks of life, from the Serbians, like Majstorovic, and also Puerto Rico, being there for the AmeriCup, with Carolina. And then my life literally became a movie, because then other opportunities started to stretch from that. And I was like, no, I'm never leaving this. If they ever call me, I'm running for 3x3.
Well, and Vince, it's a fascinating story to listen to you summarize it that way. And I'm really glad we have had the opportunity to put it in context, because I think your experience in many respects mirrors the experience a lot of people have had with this infant sport, which is now taking root, and the roots are growing deeper as we're phasing into the 3rd Olympic cycle with the sport. But you're an important part of that. Of course, Kyle, the voice, so identifiable with the sport. But the whole presentation globally, the job that FIBA has done and does with its presentation of the broadcasts, of the entertainment value of the event, because like you say, it's meant to have a street feel. It's not meant to be an experience like 5-on-5. The basketball, which is different from 5-on-5, is the only similarity. Basketball and rim, and the fact that you play on a modified court with the rules you described as well.
Yeah.
But my next question would be, though, what have you seen? What are you seeing in the evolution of the sport itself, both as a sport, as a competition, but also as an event? How do you see it evolving?
It's entertainment in itself. And I go back to And One mixtape. If anyone knows about street ball, Duke Tango, one of the most legendary MCs ever. Oh, baby, going for the crossover. Now, granted, if you're a hooper, you watch a lot of things. There's a lot of traveling. There's a lot of carrying, but it's all fun and games. But
you mean the NBA? Are you talking about the NBA?
Oh, the NBA, they don't travel. They just go on journeys. Like, they get a bus, they go to the other end, they tiptoe.
Play in the NBA. You do.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Look, we could talk about the NBA, how it's changed back and forth. Let me talk about 3x3, but I miss my old NBA 2000s, Carmelo Anthony, Allen Iverson, Vince Carter. I need my Air Canada back. But anyway, I digress. Now, as a sport, again, people are starting to get attracted to it because, as you just said, like with the NBA, it's losing its, je ne sais quoi. It's not entertaining anymore. College basketball shot to the Final Four. Hey, we talked about Dustin May before. I was over there. They're still competing. NIL deals are going back and forth. But this is an opportunity for a lot of hoopers who didn't make it to the NBA overseas to still experience basketball, but on a high energy level. You're not only going to watch the game, you're watching the storylines of certain people. It doesn't matter if you're young when it comes like the basket bonds with Giesman or legendary women like Sarah Igarvide from Spain, and they're still hooping. And then also, since the games are so quick, I mean, it's a 10-minute game. You can watch like 40 games in a day, or maybe just sitting down watching YouTube, and there's always something. Like you said, the ball is small like the women, but has the ridges, but weight as a men. So those trick moves we see with and one, like the Professor and Skip to My Lou and all of them, you're seeing in real time. And the great thing, when I first streamed it on Twitch, people thought it was a video game. I'm like, no, this is real ball. So you got those ankle breakers. You got those alley-oop dunks. The best thing is when we got those Tissot buzzer beaters. It's just a game to 21. So you're always on the edge of your seat. And what's growing about it is the nationalism when it comes to these squads. We have our juggernauts, the Serbians and Canada, and now USA starting to creep up. They weren't that good before, but even when it comes to Amsterdam, they have those teams that are dominant. But now other squads like from Africa, Tonga, Democratic Congo, you talk about Puerto Rico now is getting really, really into basketball when it comes to 3x3. Malaysia is having some upsets. Chinese Taipei, Singapore just played in the Asia Cup and now the World Cup qualifiers. People are starting to get more involved in this game because also it gives representation of their country. And now, since it's an Olympic sport, you're seeing other countries have a chance to win gold, win silver, win bronze. When Lithuania won, now they got third place, but they came home as heroes. Like, you're getting a stipend every month from, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, listen to that. You get a medal at the Olympics, they're giving you money almost either for a certain amount or the rest of your life because you represented us on a world stage. And that's what 3x3 does now. It used to be a European sport. It's coming to the Americas now a little bit more. But the world has been involved with this for so long. It's America now catching up to it. And now they're seeing what it's really about. It's about that fast pace, about that, again, I'm like a little above that generation because now I'm Unc now, but I'm old enough to complain about the kids, but then young enough to say I'm still doing 6'7". So it's kind of weird. So now people are looking at it like this is entertaining, and the short attention span of these kids today is now being fed into this because they can watch a game on like an NBA game. You watch for 3 hours and then you're waiting for the last 2 minutes because that's when it gets good. This is from the tip. It gets better and better. Now going to be in LA, a lot of countries are investing more in their teams. Last year when you talked about the Paris Olympics, the thing about to get qualified, you have to get allocations, you got to get points because it's ranked and everything. We've now increased it from 8 to 12 teams. And when it came to the Paris Olympics, all of a sudden, France had all these different tournaments, all these sanctioned, challengers and tours in Paris so they can start getting the numbers up. Now, it does cost a pretty penny, but it gives them a chance to qualify their Olympics and, again, be represented on a global stage. And more countries are getting into it. They're getting more to the youth. I'm hearing in the Caribbean when it comes to Haiti, also St. Lucia, they're opening up camps for 3x3. And that's also giving more kids an outlet. If you're not Division I, Division II, Division III, hey, you can still play basketball, but still use the skills from 5-on-5 on 3x3 and then get better at the game. I'm waiting until it becomes a college sport. That's one of my dreams. So a kid can get a scholarship and play 3x3. But again, that's in the future. But as just to put this all together as a long-winded answer, and sorry about that.
That's okay, buddy.
It's growing so much more around the world because now you start seeing heroes. There's a guy named Worthy De Jong. I think you've seen him make a crazy Tissot buzzer beater when it comes to the Olympics, but he's a hero in the Netherlands and kids want to be like him. Canyon Barry, in which he had his father, a famous guy. And again, Snoop Dogg said the best. It's Rick James, Ric Flair, Rick Barry. He crushed it when Jimmer Fredette, we all know the Cougar from BYU, rips his thigh like Dwayne Johnson does in the WWE, still tries to compete, but can't even walk out straight, but still is there to represent USA in the Olympics. But people see players like that going to 3x3, and then that grows even more because they see the legitimacy in it. And we still have so much untapped talent all over the world that 3x3 is starting to expose, and people are just buying into it because it's so entertaining. You have fun when you get to the event. I'm just the appetizer. I'm just a guy throwing the 3x3 balls. I'm just throwing the t-shirts. I'm getting people dancing. I was in Mexico singing the Backstreet Boys. Most of them did not understand English, but I do know they enjoyed the energy. They enjoyed the vibe. They were mouthing the words. Same thing when I watched the Super Bowl. Do I know what Bad Bunny is saying? No. Do I sing some of the words? Yes. Do I care to understand? No, because I'm having a good time. That's what 3x3 does. It's a good time. It's entertainment, family friendly. Bring your kids, bring grandma. I mean, you know about the Plouffe sisters. When the Plouffe parents come through, they have a good time. They support us so much. And then also you got other families, like when it comes to Mexico and everything coming through, and they're seeing their kids playing on the stage, being presented on YouTube, showing them in a way that they have talent in a sport, and then have a chance to represent their country. And then it just gets better with the entertainment we have. Sometimes we have halftime shows, break dancing, like Noah Lazarus is great when it comes to the crowd. Vincent Royer, amazing with the crowd when he's overseas. I've never emceed yet at 3x3 because I like being the media manager and learning about the players. But again, it's just a fun time, and you have to be there to experience and know exactly what I'm talking about.
Anybody that's been to an event here in Edmonton or anywhere for that matter will have the experience that I think you so energetically just described, Vince. Unfortunately, in Edmonton, we're not going to be hosting an event this year, but we are in the throes of planning for 27, 28, and 29 right now. And we look forward to, when we do that, having you back in our city and being a part of it, as you always have been such an important part of it, Vince. Thanks so much for shining light on the fun and excitement that is FIBA 3x3. And I encourage everybody, check out on YouTube, check out on the FIBA 3x3 channels. You can watch literally all of their events. They have a great website at FIBA3x3.com. You can check it out. And our Canadian women are ranked in the top 3 in the world. They're going to be a real threat for the World Championship this year, and as well going into the LA Olympics. But Vince, you're such an important part of it. Thanks for spending your time with us this morning, and I look forward to talking again, hopefully in the very near future.
Anytime, Paul, sir. Big support of you guys. Keep crushing over there. Great production. But anytime you call, I'll pick up. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Vince Chang, Entertainment Director of FIBA 3x3, joining us here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, Josh and I are going to delve into some other NBA topics, and as well, we're going to talk a bit about the WNBA. So you're listening to Hoop City, Paul Sir, on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back. What an entertaining conversation with Vince Chang. Vince is just as energetic as he came across on the radio. And it's always great, Josh, to have somebody who can, I think, really express their personality so effectively like Vince did, and seeing who the guy really is, because he's exactly like that, only in the flesh when you meet Vince.
Yeah, no, he was great. Sent him a couple messages after saying thanks for coming on. And he was like, I hope I didn't talk too much. I said, dude, we love it when people are passionate about what they do and they're on here. And I think that just gets everyone else fired up about what it is they do, and only brings more eyes to what it is he's doing.
Well, and I think the message that he gets out there in amongst all of his energy is do what you love and do it to the best of your ability with the passion that you have. Don't hold yourself back, because in Vince's case, by doing that, he has been able to be discovered, and through his hard work and the type of person that he is and personality that he has, he's been able to create a real pathway for himself. And all kudos to Vince. He's worth the price of admission, believe me. Before we get back to our 3+1, I'm going to do our Community Champions segment. Community Champions is sponsored by Innovative Benefits. If it's time for you to review your company benefits, your personal insurance plans, or investment strategies, please go and talk to Randy and his team at Innovative Benefits. They will give you straightforward and honest advice with access to the best products in the industry. Trust the great folks at Innovative Benefits to do what's best for you, your family, and your business. And to find out more, go to innovativebenefits.ca. Again, go to innovativebenefits.ca. I don't have a guest today for our community champions, because what I wanted to do was to give a focus from my own personal vantage point, and I guess a message of gratitude to all of the people who spend their time and their energy coaching our youth in our community. That goes from the youngest kids in elementary school, in school programs, in the physical education departments, to the junior high school teams, to the high school teams, of course, college, university, and up, of course. But the real heart and soul of it also is to all of our community coaches who work in the community leagues and clubs all across our city. The time and energy that you put into helping kids have a fun and meaningful experience with the game of basketball deserves this kind of attention and gratitude. I hope all of the kids and all of the families who have coaches who dedicate their time, their spare time, to preparing, to planning, to executing a practice, to getting to games, to managing kids and helping them have this positive experience, help them when they're having a rough time. All of those things a coach can do and have such a positive influence in a young person's life. You truly are, all of you, community champions. Thank you to Randy Parrish and his team at Innovative Benefits for sponsoring this every week. Our Community Champions segment, I think, is a real tribute to what the essence of basketball really is. Basketball is about community. Basketball is about experience. Basketball is about growth. Basketball is about pathways to your future. And that cannot happen without people dedicating their time and giving of their time in the coaching capacity. So with that, though, let's jump back to 3+1. We still have a couple of awards to go to, Josh.
Yeah. All right. So we can knock this one off pretty easy. I think it's pretty clear cut. 6 Man of the Year, Keldon Johnson. I mean, he leads in everything. I think that's a no doubter. I know you have some thoughts on most improved players, so let's go to Coach of the Year first.
Coach of the Year is it's interesting to think about how you select from a variety of coaches who have done things for their team to either keep them at the level they were at and improve, or stay around where they have been in terms of excellence, repeated excellence which is hard to do in any situation. You have new coaches bringing teams that are not used to success up to the forefront, and we have a number of examples this year. But I think the coach of the year for me is Joe Mazzulla from Boston. If I have to really pick who I think did the best coaching job this year, it's Joe Mazzulla, because the Celtics, I think most of us thought they were going to be a play-in team this year, not only with Jason Tatum being out with his Achilles injury, but with the departure of key pieces, starters, and significant bench contributors going away from the Celtics. I don't think any of us expected the kind of season that the Celtics have had. It's a tribute to Coach Mazzulla and his staff. It's a tribute to his players, and it's a tribute to his front office as well, because they all have banded together to put a real serious title threat, not just a playoff threat, a title threat in Boston again. Now, a big part of why I say that is because of the incredible hard work that Jason Tatum put in to come back. But you don't want to come back if you're not feeling like you're part of something meaningful and special. And I think Mazzulla has done that. Now, there are other very worthy candidates. So I'm very interested in what your opinion is.
I totally see where you come from with Joe Mazzulla. I think he has a very strong case. But to me, I think it's JB Bickerstaff.
Mhm.
He has done an incredible job with the Pistons. I mean, they were fourth in the for whatever reason, I can't remember the name of their the Central Division last year. They've
Right.
gone to first. Now they're first in the Eastern Conference, and they've had guys in and out of the lineup all year. But he's just seemed to have gotten the best out of his whole band of players, and also they're 31-9 at home. Like that's
It's incredible.
that is unreal. So to me, it's JB Bickerstaff, but I can hear the argument for a guy like Joe Mazzulla or Mitch Johnson in San Antonio for the big jump they've had this year. I can really hear an argument for anybody. I don't think there's really a wrong choice, but for me, I think JB Bickerstaff is my guy.
And understandably so. I mean, Bickerstaff, it's interesting to see how his personality has blended so well into the Detroit culture, recreating a version of the Bad Boys from the 80s. Not the same kind of, not the same kind of team when you had a joke like Lambeer or a nut job but very effective player like Dennis Rodman in the lineup. But they're tough, they're hard nosed, they're competitive, and they compete every night. I think if he wins, I think it's great. If Mazzulla wins, I think it's great. They're both phenomenal stories this year. So I'm all in on any of the top 3 or 4 coaches. If they're selected, so be it. They deserve it.
Yeah. All right. What's your opinion on most improved player this year?
Well, I have a real strong bias. I think for me, it's probably Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And the kid from Detroit, Duren.
Yep.
He's the other one. I mean, I really wrestle with this back and forth. It probably should be Duren because like his step forward is huge. And to your point about JB Bickerstaff and the improvement of the Pistons, and I think let's go back 2 years. What did they lose? 38 in a row?
Oh, yeah.
2 years ago?
Yep.
I mean, that's only 2 years ago. This is one of the most remarkable turnarounds, really, since Larry Bird came to the Celtics in 1980, when they went from winning 21 games to winning 61. This kind of turnaround in Detroit rivals that because they were so bad and so awful. And a big part of it isn't just the almost MVP caliber play of Cade Cunningham, but Duren has been the foundation for when Cunningham was injured of keeping Detroit competitive. Like the guy's really good. Big, strong, can score in a variety of ways, is a dog on defense and rebounding. Like he is a dog. And I mean that in the most complimentary way, but he is somebody that will compete. You will not outcompete him. So I think he probably deserves it. But I'll tell you, Nickeil Alexander-Walker also deserves it in Atlanta. It's interesting. I always find it interesting, Josh, and we've talked about this many times on the show, about where you play and who you play for oftentimes can dictate how successful you are as a player. If you're not in the right system, if you're not playing for a coach that likes how you play or values what you bring, you can have a far different career than the one that you have. A guy like LeBron James or Michael Jordan, they're going to be great most likely anywhere, in spite of in almost any situation who might be coaching them, because their ability, work ethic, all of that's transcendent. But look at a guy like Steve Nash. If he's not in Phoenix, is he the MVP 2 years in a row? No. If he stayed in Dallas, he would have been a really good player, had a real nice career. I don't think he'd be in the Hall of Fame, and I don't think he would have been an MVP in Dallas at all. But he goes and plays in Phoenix, plays for the right coach. Things change. John Stockton in Utah. Is Stockton in the Hall of Fame, the all-time steals and assist leader? If he's not playing for Coach Jerry Sloan, maybe, but maybe not. A distinct possibility, maybe not, because John Stockton would never overwhelm you physically. Alexander Walker in Minnesota was a great player off the bench. But you know what's so interesting to see is with Minnesota struggles this year, Josh, the guy they had was the guy they should have kept, because it would have solved the problem that they worked all year to solve. And they've gone a long way to solving that with Dosunmu coming in. But they had the guy in their midst, and Alexander Walker has gone down to Atlanta and torn it up this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally see the argument for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I absolutely get it. To me, I think Ryan Rollins is the most improved player of the year.
Really?
He's playing for Milwaukee. Last year, he's playing 14 minutes. He's shooting the ball about 5 times a night on 48% from the field. He's averaging 6 points.
That is a big turnaround.
This year, he's playing 32 minutes a night while taking 14 shots a game on 0.10 less efficient. Like, he's shooting 47% from the field instead of 48. And his 3-point percentage is dropped by barely anything. Like, he is taking more shots. He's effectively as efficient as he was. And I know like the Bucks aren't the cream of the crop this year to say anything, but this is a guy who was drafted 44th overall. He's been bouncing around the league, never really got any playing time anywhere. And then this year, he's basically a full-blown starter for Milwaukee, and he's putting up solid numbers, which makes him look like, to a team, a piece that anyone would want.
You make some great points, but I will respectfully disagree with you and tell you why I think he's a good, solid, deserving third-place finisher for most improved player. And here's why. Way back in the day, when the Minnesota Timberwolves were in their infancy, they had a player named Tony Campbell. And Tony averaged about 24 points a game on a team that won around 20 games. He was then traded to a strong Detroit Pistons team, and he became a role player off the bench. And my point is this: when you're playing for a bad team, you get the opportunity to do things that your ability may not allow you to do on a good team. And that's how I see Rollins. I think what Rollins has done is amazing, because in Milwaukee, where there has been all kinds of controversy, some of which you spoke to last week on the show very, very well, there's all kinds of crap going on in Milwaukee. Some around Antetokounmpo, some around some other stuff that you don't want your team to be involved in, right, Josh?
Absolutely.
But Rollins has made the most of his opportunity, and I think what he's done is A, improved as a player dramatically, B, has set himself up now to be of value, whether it's to Milwaukee or to another team. But he may very well, if he were to go to a good team, his numbers, in my opinion, would drop. He would be more of a role player rather than a primary scorer, because he doesn't have the kind of game that's going to win a lot of games for you. He's got the kind of game that can help you win games, but he's not the guy that you want to build around to win games. Now, Alexander Walker, I just think the fact that he's such an important part of Atlanta's improvement, that's key. And Duran, going back to him, most likely deserving to be the most improved player. He's on now a powerhouse team in the league. So that's kind of how I see Rollins fitting into that food chain. But again, if he were to win it, it'd be deserved
Mhm.
because his improvement is not just noticeable, it's astronomical compared to where it was. So he seized the opportunity and made the most out of it.
Yeah, I you might have swayed me, probably not, but
I don't think I did.
no. But
I never swayed
I
you.
see like where the argument's coming from because I was the same way about like when the Wizards signed Bradley Beal to his big deal. I was like, the Wizards are terrible, good stats, bad team, and then what happens? He gets traded to the Phoenix and he's awful, and then they buy him out.
You got that was one of the worst trades probably in the last 10 years, if not of all time. So I think that what you've got in the situations we're talking about the top three, all have made noticeable, quantifiable, and I think admirable improvements in their games over this year and have been really valuable parts of the team. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to go to our deep dive and with our good friend Ben Golliver, who joined me yesterday, and we talk about some of the stuff we've talked about. We talk about awards, we talk about the NCAA, but we do it in a way that only Ben can do. So we're going to go into the weeds on the deep dive here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
Phillips, just pure entertainment. Sports 1440 brings the heat with bold opinions, big personalities, and Edmonton's fiercest fans. This is your turf. This is Edmonton's sports leader, Sports 1440.
The weather doesn't care about your shift or your schedule. Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts let you battle back against the ever-changing elements. Carhartt's durable, water-repellent technology lets light rain beat up and roll right off. Layer up and stay on the job longer without getting drenched. Get your Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts at all three of our Edmonton job site workwear locations.
Job site workwear, tough different jobs.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Built for real-life confidence. Visit Subaru.ca.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is the #1 heating and cooling company for people who want heating and cooling, because you'll save a bundle by bundling. Then you can use hot, cold, Common thermostat, do what you're told. Turn up the heat, turn up the cold, to the vents start pushing out tornadoes. Bundle my furnace with some AC. Gonna get a new from Legacy. Oh, yeah. Save a bundle when you bundle your new furnace and AC from Legacy today. Plus no payments and no interest for 1 year. That's how you build your legacy. Legacy Heating and Cooling.
In the digital realm, our kids face threats, but we have the power to guard their innocence. Visit protectchildren.ca, a national charity teaching parents and kids how to stay safe online. Empower their curiosity, not their fears. Visit protectchildren.ca.
A Saskatchewan boy who grew up loving and playing sports. At least we think he grew up. Listen to Kevin Carius weekday mornings from 7 to 11 on Edmonton's home for sports, Sports 1440. Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free Radio Player app and listen wherever you go.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! What a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir. This is the deep dive. I'm so happy to be welcoming back Ben Golliver. Ben, it was great seeing you in your stomping grounds in Southern California a couple of weeks ago, and it's great to have you on the show again.
It's good to be back, and I'm surprised we didn't keep you down here. You know, sometimes people come to California and they never leave. I don't know if you got tempted like that.
We did. Yeah, I think you always do. You walk, you go, really? We're leaving this? And when we landed, it was more like, really? This is what we're coming back to? Because we came back to cold and snow. But hey, we all know home's where the heart is.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
At least we have to keep telling ourselves that. So what before we go into the last weekend of the NBA, I would like to do a little bit on the end of March Madness with your Michigan Wolverines winning for the first time since 1989. Dominant performance, although you have to give UConn a lot of credit in the final game. And then UCLA winning their first women's championship ever, I guess, because the last time they won was in 1978 when it wasn't the NCAA championship. It was something totally different. So a huge victory for the Bruins. And I'd like to start with the Bruins because it's a team that from a watchability standpoint was a real easy team, not just to watch, but to like. I felt, whether it was from the enthusiasm of their really great coach, Corey Close, on the sideline, but their style of play, the type of players that they had, that was a great championship team, I thought, Ben.
Well, it was a very satisfying run. I covered them at last year's March Madness, and I thought they were going to do it last year, and they actually got to the Final Four and just took a horrible loss. I mean, it was a complete blowout. They weren't competitive. They were shell-shocked, and it was one of those moments where you wonder how a team and a coach will respond when they've never done it, like you've described. I mean, Corey Close has been at it for a long time. Her players this year were like all seniors, pretty much all the key players. And they just did the classic, like, well, you get punched in the mouth, get yourself back up, and we're going to come back and do it again. This year, UConn wasn't as good as the previous year. They didn't actually get UConn, and they shot at a revenge because the bracket broke a little bit differently. But boy, did they take care of business. I really put a lot of it on Lauren Betts. As fun as they are to watch on offense, because they move the ball, they share the ball, and they involve her, which is always fun because, the entry pass, it's a lost art in a lot of basketball. And UCLA is not afraid to throw those entry passes. But I thought it was just her defensive presence that just shut everything down. She's not as mobile as like the NBA version of a Wembanyama or a Chet, or, these high level, bigs that just patrol the paint. But she was so big, so good at the defensive rebounding, and then so disciplined, play to play, doesn't take plays off, that South Carolina just couldn't figure out what to do. I mean, their offense was basically incompetent. They're barely scoring. And I'm not saying that to bash South Carolina. I'm just saying that is the kind of impact that a huge player who's great at blocking shots, great at rebounding, and great at stepping out and switching when necessary can have on a game. And so I thought they won the championship with defense. Of course, Jaquez had a major starring role with all of her energy, and Kiki Rice is a great player. I mean, just go down the list. They have a lot of people who contributed, but it was a true team that stuck together after a very difficult loss the previous year. And it was cool to see them get a lot of recognition here in LA. They actually had a moment at the Lakers game to celebrate them, and then the very next night they had a moment at the Clippers game to celebrate them. And so they were the toast of the town here, bringing a championship home. And of course, Corey Close, we gave a lot of the credit to her mentor, John Wooden, which is always nice to see that lineage as well.
Well, it really is. And I thought the stories that came out talking about her experiences with Coach Wooden and her being able to be influenced by and mentored somewhat by Wooden, but certainly impacted by him. And it's really a shame that Wooden's era is so far in the past, Ben, because his coaching style, his philosophy, not just his success, not his gaudy record in the record books, but I think he is still to this day the beacon of coaching at the ultimate height, because his thoroughness and his thoughtfulness of how he coached kids, his hierarchies, the values that he placed into his program, that is as legendary. And I think when you listened to people like the late, great Bill Walton, but even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and just the reverential respect they had for Wooden, to have that impact Corey. And what stood out with her remarks to me the most, Ben, was how she said that it validated her thought that she could care about the players and still be an effective coach. what are your thoughts? You live in LA.
Yeah.
You're so familiar with John Wooden and all that he's about. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you go to Poly Pavilion, it's incredible how many banners they've got up from the Wooden era, and
Absolutely.
obviously it's been a distinguished program since then too. But I mean, if you really want to take it in, you go see the statues, you go see the championship banners, you go see the long list of retired jerseys that pretty much all belong to Hall of Fame players who went on to great success. That's what they talk about when they say legacy, right? Is, changing people's lives, making them better players, making them better humans, and then having them go on well after they've played for you, the huge success. And that's really what happened with the Wooden UCLA teams. Corey Close is going to have the same thing. I mean, a bunch of these players are going to go really high in the WNBA draft, including Lauren Betts, who could be the number 1 pick. We'll see exactly how that shakes out. But she has taken, it's hilarious. I mean, she quotes Wooden like some preachers quote the Bible or scripture. It's like every interview, it's John told me this, Coach Wooden said this, it's clear that this was way past the normal mentor-mentee relationship. That, it's just a very, very deep bond, and that she subscribes to all the same philosophies that he did. He was always about being a well-rounded person and being a good person. He talked a lot about humility. He talked a lot about balance. He didn't want people to rush, don't hurry. All those kinds of lessons are on and off the court from John Wooden. And I think Corey Close brought that to her team. You heard her mention, well, I have my players journaling, or I have my players doing positive affirmations after a practice about this is what went well. And you look at her best player, Lauren Betts, who described some very serious mental health battles and challenges along the way where, she wasn't happy at Stanford. She really felt like she lost her way. And so much of UCLA's success was Corey Close trying to find the right way to help Lauren Betts be happy as a person, be comfortable, be satisfied, and be able to, kind of achieve her best on the court. And so I do think the mental side was what really stood out. And, frankly, they got smacked last year. A lot of teams would break. A lot of coaches would question everything that they're doing and like go back to square one. And I think because she had that Wooden foundation, she didn't do it. She said, hey, let's go back and take another shot. We could do this thing. And they actually got it done. And in some cases, they weren't challenged all that much. They really took care of business in a lot of their toughest games this year.
They really did. 3 quick thoughts. Number 1, I love the way Lauren Betts ran the court. That is the sign of a happy post player. When you run the court both directions as hard as she did, the dead sprint, she would run rim to rim. That's every coach's dream. Every coach worth their weight in salt always talks about running the court, sprinting the court. Bigs, run the court, and if they do, if you've got the ball, reward them for their efforts. UCLA did that extremely well. Secondly, about going to Poly Pavilion, I'm with you. But you also have to go into the Hall of Fame and see Johnny Wooden's office, humble office, the way they have recreated it, like created it from Wooden's own items, and then the historical, the trophies, etc. It's just, it really is another one of those religious experiences if you're really into the sport of basketball. And then the third thing I loved was, I remember back into the 90s when the Runnin' Rebs absolutely blasted Duke out of the water one year, and next year Duke came back and beat them. It really reminded me of that. And that was kind of the benchmark I was thinking going into the Final Four is what team was UCLA going to be? Were they going to be Duke, or were they going to be, as you described, as a lot of other teams that get broken or have their confidence shaken at their foundation? They certainly Corey and her approach to the game built on that foundation, use that as a learning experience. And you see that so often. Until you get there, until you taste it, you don't know what the experience is. But not that many teams rebound that way and come back stronger the way UCLA did.
No, I mean, you're sparking thoughts for me on all those points. I mean, number 1, we love bigs who run the court, because think about how hard it is to defend Lauren Betts when you have your defense set in the half court. She's just so big. She's got the drop step moves. And now if you get her moving and you don't necessarily have the right matchup, now her defender has to run with her, and maybe she doesn't want to do that. It's much harder to run on defense than there is to run on offense, right? And your defense isn't set. Well, it's just going to be a layup. I mean, that's just, or in the NBA, it's going to be a dunk, right? And that's why you want the bigs to move so much. It's so hard to get those matchups in transition against big players. How many alley-oop dunks does Wemby get over the course of a season if he's moving up and down the court? I mean, it's just it's easy stuff, right? In terms of wooden shrines, the Indiana Basketball High School Hall of Fame, I would recommend that to people not too far outside of Indianapolis. That's where Coach Wooden was from. I actually went to his small hometown in the middle of nowhere. You wouldn't know it from anything else, right? Except they do have a lot of wooden signs up. But in Newcastle, they've got a lot of his memorabilia from his high school years. He was quite a player himself, and of course, he worked up the ranks as a coach in Indiana as well. So if you want the early John Wooden stuff, that's where you should go. I just think their resilience as a team was excellent, and part of their success I would credit to them joining the Big Ten. Now, there's been a lot of tension in different sports about, these West Coast teams, should they join the Big Ten? It's so much travel, it screws everything up. And, in football, maybe some of these teams aren't competitive, and it wasn't really the best idea. But by UCLA joining the Big Ten, they got test after test after test after test this year, and they smoked everybody. I mean, they really took care of business in the conference play. We know the Big Ten produced Caitlin Clark in Iowa. We know Michigan's got a great women's program that's been developing. I mean, you just go right down the list. Indiana, they've had some success recently. I mean, all these different teams are going to test you, and you're going to have to go on the road and beat them. And so I felt like by the time UCLA got to the tournament, they were so ready and so prepared. And I would just point out, it's rare that a Big Ten team wins it all. Iowa went 0-2, and that was a little sad to see. But the Big Ten took it in both men's basketball and women's basketball this year.
Well, for those of us who are Big Ten fans, it was a great year. It was fantastic to see. And let's jump over to the other Big Ten champion, the Michigan Wolverines. Means an awful lot to you and your family that this happened. One of the a couple of observations I have. I love that you made the point about UCLA feeding the post in the traditional way, the interior post pass. Like you said, that along with the mid-range jump shot, which is on a bit of a comeback trail, but those are lost art forms that I think are silly that they are. But I saw that a lot in the men's side of things because, and it's a whole different discussion when you talk about possible rule changes down the road, but so many men's teams try to eat up the first 15 seconds of the shot clock with their dribble weave out front before they start going into any of their actions. And one of the actions that, even as massive as Michigan is, that was still not exploited even to the ability that they could exploit it to, was the interior post passing. They did have some great high-low passes, some great back seals in the lane. It was more of what I would call a traditional post game, but it still surprises me. That's number one. The second surprise I had, because the final game was a bit of a rock fight. I mean, that was haymakers being thrown with blindfolds on.
Michigan couldn't hit a shot. I mean, it was maybe their worst shooting game of the entire year in the championship game. I mean, that's the nightmare scenario, right?
It really was. And that the other thing that threw me a bit from a technical side, Ben, is the spacing. I was shocked at how both teams, UConn too, because I've genuinely regarded as UConn being the gold standard of running effective actions away from the ball. Lots of screens, lots of picks, lots of slips, but I found both teams bunching up on one side, lower, like inside, close to her inside. I looked like in 1980s NBA basketball, close to her inside the 3-point line. That really surprised me. But do you think that that contributed? And I know I'm in the weeds on it, but I think that contributed to the low shooting percentages, because they didn't space the court well to give a lot of shooters a bit of time to make the choice to catch and shoot or to lift fake and shoot, because everybody was so clustered together.
Well, so Michigan's strategy this season was, we're going to be bigger than you. We're going to bully you. So they bring in a whole bunch of guys who are upperclassmen, right, through the transfer portal. They get a Diamara, they get Merez Johnson, this kind of beefy power forward. A Diamara is 7'3" center. They get Yaxel Lendenberg, who
your UCLA guy.
Yeah, that's right. And Lendenberg comes in as sort of their best all-around player on both sides, but he's also really big. and they're kind of playing these jumbo lineups where they're playing him at the 3, where at times last year he played center. And so when you have that much size, and it's relatively good versatile size too, it is going to create those clogged log jams that you're talking about. Now, when they went against Arizona in the Final Four, Arizona's whole thing was their winning strategy all year long was, we're going to be bigger than you, we're going to score at the rim, and you're not going to be able to stop us.
We're going to beat you up. We're going to beat you into submission inside.
But it went the other way in the Final Four, right? Where it's like it was bigs on bigs, and Michigan proved to be bigger, and that's how they were able to win that game. So when they go against UConn's not nearly as big as Arizona was. I think Michigan's strategy was, well, we feel very confident we're going to own the paint. And so what we're going to do is try to challenge every three-point shot that goes up as best we possibly can. We're not going to be double and tripling team guys in the post. We're going to be, trying to recover like crazy and challenge every shot, force those three-pointers out, and just try to make them more difficult shots. And that defensive game plan really worked. And you kept hearing on the broadcast, the guys were saying, well, UConn is playing the style of play that they want. The game is slower. Michigan prefers to play fast up and down. But the thing was, Michigan had a better defense all season. And so the fact that it turned into a rock fight, you might call that UConn style because the game was a little bit slower, but Michigan was very comfortable playing that way because they were such a complete team. They could beat Arizona playing big. They could beat UConn playing slow, and it didn't really matter because they were sort of the most well-rounded team that we really saw all season long, with the possible exception of Duke. Duke was also very well-rounded, but of course they tripped up blowing the lead against UConn, so we didn't get that big showdown. And so I think that's the sign of a very good team, also a very well-coached team. The other thing that stood out to me about the championship game, when nothing is going in, it's so easy to get discouraged. It's so easy to get down on yourself. You even saw the halftime interview where Axel Hindenburg is being asked about how he's playing. He's like, I'm horrible. I'm playing soft. I can't do anything.
One of the great interviews I've heard. One of the most honest, great interviews I've heard in a long time.
Right. And he was honest to a fault. You're saying, hey, man, pick your head up. Like, you guys are leading and, you're halfway home to a championship, right? But that was the frustration level. I mean, he was injured, and I think that was contributing to maybe some of his struggles as well. But that's why I thought it was great coaching from Dusty May down the stretch. The UConn kid from Indiana, Mullins, hits 2 3-pointers. Immediately, Dusty May has the defensive, adjustment to put in a different player to guard him. Axel Hindenburg, throws up 2 jumpers because he starts to get tired midway through that second half. Immediately, Dusty May pulls him out and gives him a break. And even down the stretch, Duke had faltered against UConn with some of the inbounds and the turnovers, and they didn't take a timeout. Michigan started to have some of the same problems, and UConn banks in a 3-pointer to cut the lead to 4 late. Dusty uses the timeouts, gets his guys organized, makes sure they get to the free throw line. A guy actually misses both free throws. There's crazy scramble situations, and yet they're still poised enough, even despite all this mounting chaos, to be able to bring the win home at the end. McKinney hits the huge 3, which felt like the dagger, and then they were able to just get the stops that they needed and kind of squeeze out UConn's offense in the last minute or two. So I thought it was just a very well-managed game by Dusty. So many things going wrong, so many opportunities to lose your head. He never lost his head. He kept his composure, and his players followed along right behind him.
He's a legend in the booth and a master on the mic. Low Tide brings the banter weekdays from noon to 2. Sports 1440. It's where Edmonton talks sports. Get in the game. Text 833-401-1440.
Own and run a small business? Innovative Benefits provides private health service plan setup, as well as administration services for businesses like yours. But the best part is, Innovative Benefits offers benefit plans that cost less than the industry average, 20 to 40% less. And they provide 100% coverage with no insurance company rules, administration, or interference. So if you have medical, dental, or healthcare expenses, their plans will always increase your cash flow. Visit innovativebenefits.ca for more.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Safety, reliability, and uncommon value. Visit Subaru.ca.
It's okay to not be okay. Mental health affects us all. Encourage loved ones to seek help. Remember, asking for help isn't a weakness, it's a strength. It's time to talk, connect, and care, because everyone deserves a healthy mind. Visit CMHA.ca today.
The Lawnmower Hospital.
Contractors, spring cleanup is coming. It's time to get your lawnmowers, aerators, power rakes, lawn vacs, and more serviced at the Lawnmower Hospital. Hey, the longer you wait, the longer you'll have to wait in line later. Their service department gets crazy busy as the season rolls on, so get in now while it's calm. For quick service on top brands like Bluebird, Ryan Turf, Husqvarna, and more, check out lawnmowerhosp.com.
The Lawnmower Hospital.
When it comes to sports in Edmonton, Jason Gregor is a must listen. He brings you the inside scoop with guests from across North America. If it matters in sports, you'll hear it here first. Gregor rolls out weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports 1440. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Let's jump over to the NBA, Ben, because we've got the last weekend of games. There's still some positioning that's remaining to be worked out, and it's particularly, I think, in the Eastern Conference where the most movement could still happen in the last couple of games. But before we jump into that, we usually touch on the Lakers, and we've gone from talk about peaks and valleys and soaring high and falling far, but they definitely have fallen far thanks to the injury bug. Again, when things were really cooking for them, when they were really going great, playing at the best they were, Luka was playing probably as well as he's ever played in his career. Then the same night, he and Reeves go out. And now they're looking at the playoffs with a whole different lens, and it ain't a pretty sight.
Well, I mean, it's tough to see, and I know that everybody got their hopes up, and the chemistry around this team, to me, was the best we've seen from a Lakers team in 5 years. I mean, they had pretty good chemistry the year after they won the bubble championship. They came back, and they were quite good, and guys were all on the same page, and they were rolling. But since then, there's been a lot of ups and downs and drama, and Russell Westbrook's here, and now he's gone, and D'Angelo Russell, and like all the just kind of seasons that got away from the team for basketball reasons, for personality reasons, for the kinds of stuff that you would hope that, you would be able to control, and they just haven't really been able to take care of it. This year, they finally did. Everybody's aligned. LeBron's buying into the third role. Austin Reeves has taken a jump. Luka's playing like an MVP candidate. It's all lined up. JJ's, got another 50-win season under his belt. And then kapoof, it all just goes away overnight. And of course, it's because Luka got injured and also secondarily because Reeves got injured. Horrible breaks for them. And so they were on track potentially to be the 3 seed in the Western Conference. And that, puts them in position, well, maybe they could get to the Western Conference Finals before they have to face Oklahoma City. Now they can't even look ahead at all. Now they're looking at the possibility of a 4-5 matchup against Houston. Houston, I think it would be heavily favored in that matchup over the Lakers without their 2 stars. There's just no good way to replace 60 to 65 to 70 points per game between Luka and Reeves. You just can't do it. And so now they're looking at the possibility of a very quick first-round exit and potentially starting that series on the road where you're coming back home down 2-0, and that's a really tough spot to be in if that's how it shakes out. So, I mean, yeah, they went from dreaming of the Western Conference Finals and maybe if everything breaks right, Luka can outduel the Thunder, like that's the dream, right? To now their season could be over in about 2 weeks. And, you have all the questions. Do you bring LeBron back? How do you, refashion the roster? How much is Reeves going to make as a free agent this summer? I mean, you start asking all these kinds of questions, and they never even got the fun of a real playoff run. So it's just very demoralizing here in Los Angeles. There's no other way to put it. And you could even feel it at the game earlier this week. I mean, they played the Thunder. LeBron sat out. The 2 stars were injured. They were down 40 at one point, and they're starting Drew Timme, Gonzaga legend, somehow getting himself into the starting lineup. And it just didn't feel real. I mean, it felt like Summer League kind of. It just didn't even feel like a real game. And just a week or two before that, they had been running the Cavaliers off the court, and everything was going great. So it turned so fast, and I feel bad for everybody involved.
I do too, and it has been the source of a lot of controversy. It being the Lakers have been the source of a lot of controversy, but questions were being not only answered, expectations were being met and exceeded as we were getting on into the season. LeBron, after he came back from sitting out for a while, blended in as well as I think anybody could have ever expected him. Luka was unreal. Austin was rock solid. Ayton, people were even saying, Ayton's not so bad. Like, he's doing some good things. Like, when was the last time you heard that about by Ayton? So yeah, it is a shame. But now we have to look at the landscape. The Thunder are phenomenal, just playing phenomenal basketball, as are the Spurs, as are the Nuggets. My gosh, those top 3 in the West, the way they're going into the playoffs, that sets up just an amazing Western Conference battle, with the Thunder being favored, and I would probably go so far as to say somewhat heavily favored to come out of it and to repeat as champions. But now you've got Jokic just playing unbelievably well, and the Spurs have not taken their foot off the gas. They just get better and better as a team, as does Wemby. And now for the first time, we have the Wemby factor in the playoffs, barring injury, in full bloom. That changes a lot of things and creates the possibility where people can now start saying, maybe it'll be a little more interesting than just the Thunder rolling through.
Well, yeah, I definitely think that the Spurs are the must-watch team of these playoffs. I can't wait to see how Wemby plays, how they perform. But I would say the Thunder are huge beneficiaries of the Lakers' woes, because they were looking at the possibility if the Lakers were the 3 seed, Denver probably would have been the 4 seed, and now Oklahoma City would have to face Denver in the second round, if that's how it had shaken out. Instead, what's most likely going to happen is the Lakers are going to drop into that 4-5 matchup with Houston. Oklahoma City will have a cakewalk in the first round. They'll probably get Houston in the second round. Houston just is not a good team in the clutch, and they're not a particularly good matchup for Oklahoma City. I would expect Oklahoma City to take care of Houston quite easily in the second round. So instead of having to get Denver in that second round, now they're getting Houston. So you'd way rather have that if you're the Thunder. And then you put on top of it, if the good teams all advance. So I'm saying if San Antonio and Denver take care of business, they'll have to play in the second round, and that's going to be an absolute bloodbath, a war. And meanwhile, Oklahoma City's sitting over here saying, okay, well, we get to take care of Houston while these 2 guys beat each other up, and we only have to face one of them, right? Well, if you're Oklahoma City and you're getting not buys, but you're getting 2, pretty quick rounds, and you're getting to rest up and concentrate all your resources on who are you going to play in the Western Conference Finals, it's a huge advantage. And so I'm not saying it's impossible for Denver or San Antonio to make it through to the finals, but it's going to be a lot tougher. Their path is a lot trickier than it will be for Oklahoma City. But Denver's been playing great basketball. I think 10 straight wins. I mean, they've really turned it on when they've needed to. And one of those wins was a big overtime victory over the Spurs in one of the best games we've seen all season. Absolutely. But the Spurs are holding down their end of the bargain too. They're going to have the 2 seed. They're going to have home court advantage. They've got great chemistry and momentum as well. So, it feels like a collision course between Denver and San Antonio, and then another one between whoever wins that series and Oklahoma City. But the untimely injuries for the Lakers, to me, it just shook up the whole deck, and it really cleared a path for Oklahoma City to potentially repeat. I did get a chance to see them this week. Holy cow. I mean, it was probably a B or C effort by their standards, because they really weren't pushed. They didn't have to play Jalen Williams. The Lakers were kind of in tatters, like I described, but boy, the defense is still clicking at a high level. Shea looked unstoppable. Wasn't even his best game, but still just so relentless in terms of how he scores. He makes it look so easy. Chet Holmgren's been coming on lately, playing some really good basketball as well, which is a positive sign. I feel better than ever, honestly, that OKC is going to be able to go back to back. And it's so hard to do that in this modern NBA, but I think it's setting up quite well for them.
I think it is too. And what I love about it, though, is the only thing standing in their way are these two X factors named Wemby and Jokic. Yeah. And San Antonio, of course, had their early season success. You can't really transfer that forward to now because we know it's a marathon, not a sprint, and lots has changed. But the one thing San Antonio does do, and definitely better than Denver, but better than anybody else in the NBA, is they do match up better against OKC than anybody else. They have some unique matchups that can bother, not stop, but can bother them. There's nobody that can stop SGA right now. Like, you can have, like, as good as San Antonio is, he's just on a whole different level than everybody. And he's got too many weapons in the quiver to be stopped. It would seem, but it does make at least there's some possibility of a drama in the Western Conference, and it's not just going to be. It still could be, but it's not just going to be a steamroller job by OKC. So Ben, on the East, we'll wrap up with that. You've got Detroit. I didn't look today before we talked. What's the latest on Cade Cunningham's health?
Well, so he came back, kind of surprising some people. He played limited minutes, but he did play this week, and he was really looking to move the ball around. I think he had 10 assists in like 25 minutes, and so it wasn't, I'm trying to come back and score 35 and get everybody excited. So he's back. Obviously, I think there's a boost from a basketball standpoint, but also just from a mental standpoint, right?
Absolutely.
Because you're going into the playoffs feeling like, hey, we are the 1 seed. You got that swagger if you're the Pistons. And, I expect whoever they play, and we don't know who it's going to be, and we'll come down to the final day of the season, but whoever they play is going to try to test Cade. That would be my number one game plan thing is, hey, this guy's collapsed lung, whatever they're calling it, you got to rough him up, and you're not going to cross the line, of course, but you got to test him physically to see what is he capable of doing. And so whoever they play,
know how awful that sounds to say the guy has a collapsed lung, we got to rough him up.
Hey,
I'm just joking. It's not like he's got a bum knee. It's like he had a collapsed lung.
I mean, it's a heroic for him to get back on the court. And, we've seen sometimes with these, it is an injury that maybe sometimes sounds worse than it is. I think you can wear a protective thing on your chest. Yes. We saw CJ McCollum come back from it in a couple of weeks. But, this is the NBA playoffs. We know how coaches are. You're going to be getting picked. I'm running him through 15 different screens, right? You're going to try to punish him a little bit. And so he's a tough guy. I mean, clearly he's back on the court. And he's so talented. And so it's great to see this number 1 seed kind of closer to full strength, going into the playoffs. And now it raises the question, okay, well, a lot of people have been saying Boston's the favorite, because they've got Tatum back and, they've got the experience. They've got a lot of guys, if Derek White or Jaylen Brown, two-way players who have done it at a very, very high level. But this year's body of work says Detroit's been better, right? So who's the real favorite, and New York wants to be into the party too. So you were saying earlier, you've got a couple of interesting foils for the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. I think we have the exact same dynamic shaping up in the East, right?
Agreed. Totally agree. And I think that this is one of the more intriguing playoff beginnings in the Eastern Conference in a long, long time. How long has it been since all 10 Eastern Conference teams will have records over 500?
Right.
Used to be you get like to 6 and the rest were all below 500. Now everybody's over 500, and in the West, the bottom 2 are going to be below 5. Well, yeah, I think the bottom 2 are Golden State. Yeah, they're below 500. So it's great to see the Eastern Conference strengthening up. So I've got, and I know your time, you've been so generous with it, but I've got to run a couple of questions by you. If you had to pick today between Coach of the Year, I'll just give you 2 candidates, Bickerstaff and Mazzulla, who would you pick?
I'm on Mazzulla, and it's mostly because the health factor. I just think with Detroit, until the Cade injury late in the season, they had such great availability. They just got into one of those joyride years where everything was easy. I don't think everything was easy for Boston. I mean, when you're trying to pick up the pieces after Tatum, but not just Tatum being injured, losing Horford, losing Kornet, you go right down the list. They had a lot of key rotation players departing. And so they had to reshape their identity on the fly. They became younger. They became deeper. They became, I think, a tougher team, a little bit more of a, maybe tougher is the wrong word because they're not as big, but just a gutsier team. They just playing hard, trying to run you off the court, trying to exhaust you a little bit, a little bit more like the Pacers who won the East last year. Right. They just sort of changed their identity, and it worked, and I think a lot of it is how Mazzulla wants to play. Great relationship with Jaylen Brown, was able to kind of empower him. Derek White just rock solid. He steps up. Peyton Pritchard's getting some starting looks at times this season. He has a great season. It just felt like he really maximized what his team was able to do while juggling a lot of strife. The things that were outside of his control, players departing, Tatum being injured, Tatum needing to be worked back in mid-season. I think they've handled it very well. So even though Detroit has been a great overachieving team, not taking anything away from them at all, Boston actually surprised me more with their success this season. I thought they were going to be a team, down there in the play-in, not 9 or 10, not fighting for the number 1 seed and landing at number 2. I just didn't see that coming. So, that's why I went with Mazzulla, but it's an all-time, close battle for sure.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think you summed it up. I mean, when you're dealing with splitting hairs to get to that conclusion, that means you have some great coaching going on, because you can go beyond those two as well and look at a number of other coaches that have done an absolutely phenomenal job. Okay, real quickly, awards. Most improved player.
So I'm going Jalen Duren with the Detroit Pistons. I think what put me over the top was when Cade went out, he raised his game and they kept winning, right? I usually think of a player like Jalen Duren as being derivative because so much of his offense is being created for him. But the fact that he's a great, backline defender for them, great rim protector, shown some, growth offensively in terms of, being a willing passer and also being able to score even without Cade setting him up. And also just to break out in terms of making his first All-Star game and being a player who's going to be someone who, he didn't even get a contract extension last summer. Detroit, they were even, I think, surprised by his level of improvement this year. Otherwise, they would have paid him last year when it was cheaper, because now the price just went up. So to me, I love rewarding winning. I love rewarding guys who contribute directly to winning, and that's Jalen Duren. You got some good candidates, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jalen Johnson for Atlanta. It's just tougher to be the 1 seed than it is to be the 5 or 6 seed. And so that's why I'm going Jalen Duren.
I think it's a great choice. It's a solid choice. I would love, I'm a big Alexander Walker fan. I think the Timberwolves made a huge mistake not paying him because a lot of the problems that they've had would have been solved if they kept him. And if Finch had done a more insightful job of how to play him. I think, players get pigeonholed no matter how good you are as a coach. Players, when you're coaching, you start pigeonholing players and saying, this is what they're capable of. And you put him in that box. And I really felt Nickeil had that problem in Minnesota, where he went to Atlanta and out of necessity or out of design, they let him go. And boy, has he ever exploded in terms of his improvement this year, and made a big difference on the improving Hawks as well, who have some talent and are trying to do some good things down there. Defensive player of the year. Gee, this is a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, no, you know who it's going to be. It's Wemby. Yeah, he's got the statistical argument. He's ranked like first in all the major advanced stats for defense, but this is really just the eye test, right? When you start to see players running away from a guy, because they're like they're afraid of his arms. They
look oftentimes in the NBA for the first time in a long time. They look like junior high players when they see the big guy, and all of a sudden there's a 6'5" grade 8 kid, 8th grader out there who's blocking everybody's shots. That's how NBA players react to him.
Yeah, U-turns are legal in the NBA. You're allowed to just go towards the rim and then just do a 180 and go back the other way. We see it a lot, and it shows through. Their defense was 25th last year because he missed a lot of time due to injury. They're all the way up to 3rd this year. He's leading the league in block shots. His numbers, they really haven't been done by anybody except for Shaq and David Robinson. over the last 30 years. He's just in a class by himself. You don't have to overthink this one.
No.
You know, Asar Thompson, great for Detroit. Chet Holmgren, great for Oklahoma City. But, there's one guy, and if he's healthy, he'll win the next 5, right? I mean, at least.
100%.
Yeah.
He's just a different deal. Okay, last 2. I'm going to start with I'm going to leave the hardest one for last. MVP. What's
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And,
100%.
for me, I hopped on with him when they were 24-1 to start. And I felt like, anytime you don't have a championship hangover and you're like coming back better, that shows a lot to me about the character and the consistency of your leader. And he carried them through so many injuries, right? I think last year they set the NBA record for point differential. They were winning their games by an average of 12.8 points. This year, it's only 12.1 points, which is top 5 all time. So again, it just shows you the consistency. He breaks Wilt Chamberlain's record for the 20 points per game. They have the best record in the league again, the number 1 seed again. I don't know why I would have changed my mind since the 24-1. I know people made arguments for Wemby, arguments for Joker, arguments for even Luka there for a while, but ultimately he came up short on the games played. It just best player on best team with the consistency factor. He's mastered scoring. He's shooting 2-pointers more efficiently than prime Shaquille O'Neal or prime Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, Jabbar never missed his jump hook, and somehow Shai has better 2-point field goal percentage. Makes no sense.
Numbers, ludicrous.
Yeah.
Like these are, and what I love about the MVP is it's not a race, but it's a bar being raised to a higher level than I've ever seen in terms of 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5.
Running a business is tough. Finding new customers shouldn't be. Stop chasing leads. Let them come to you with Stingray, offering you access to more digital, outdoor, and traditional advertising platforms, including radio, connected TV, search and social, programmatic, digital advertising, and digital out-of-home. So while you're closing the next deal, Stingray is working for you to deliver more leads, more customers, more sales. It's that easy. Get started now at stingraymediasolutions.com and always be closing.
I'm dying for some good sushi, not the kind that's all dried out for days in the grocery store.
Oh, tell me about it. Finding actually fresh sushi is such a gamble.
Say same. The house always wins when you come to Catch It a Week. Our sushi is made fresh hourly. You can't get any fresher than that. Now, let's turn up here.
Catch of the Week, Edmonton's best seafood. Just off the Henday and Capilano, only 5 minutes from Sherwood Park. Details and directions at catchoftheweekedmonton.com.
Are you overwhelmed by debt and getting nonstop calls from creditors? It can feel like there's no escape. Debt doesn't have to be a life sentence. A single call can turn things around. My name is Parveen Middleton. I'm a licensed insolvency trustee at BDO right here in Edmonton. I can help you become debt-free with a solution just for you. Let's put an end to those calls from creditors together. Call 1-833-BDO-TALK or visit bdodebt.ca to discover your debt-free future.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. The perfect choice for Alberta's challenging weather and road conditions. Visit Subaru.ca.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back as we wind the show up for this week here on Hoop City with Paul Sir and our birthday boy, Josh Fenwick. Happy birthday, Josh.
Thank you. 22 years young. Not to make you feel old or anything, Paul.
That you don't have to work very hard at that. I mean, there's only a half a century difference between us, so
Basically shared life experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But no, happy birthday, Josh. And
Thanks.
Sounds like you got an exciting birthday coming up, going down watching the Flames on the weekend. So congratulations. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Enjoy and
I
celebrate.
absolutely will. In your honor, for sure.
Of
now
course.
that you've told me to have
you
a good
sweet.
one.
You're such a sweet talker for your young age. So, okay, as we wrap things up here, let's touch on a couple of things. First of all, the Edmonton Stinger season is just around the corner. I think we're about 3 weeks away, just under 3 weeks away, I think. 3 weeks away from the Stingers starting up. They'll be playing the first game in the CEBL. We haven't talked a lot about the Stingers on the show this year because, quite honestly, we haven't had a lot to talk about. So far, the signings have been, it's nice to see a number of the players coming back from last year, particularly this last week, announcing that the Canadian University Player of the Year, Aaron Rooms, will be returning to the Stingers. And I know that Coach Baker and his staff will be looking to Aaron to play a more significant role. Nick Hornsby's back, of course. And then a number of other players, Tay Donald, Bossier, and it's great to have them back. So I'm looking forward to some more significant signings coming up so we get a chance to talk about the way the team is coming together. But folks, be aware of that. Of course, the Stingers will be playing down in the Expo Center, and the tickets are on sale right now. You can go to their website and check them out. And looking forward to what we hope to be a real good, competitive, and interesting CEBL season. Monday, Josh, WNBA draft. It all has accelerated rapidly with news surrounding the WNBA. Once everybody got their act together, got the collective bargaining agreement signed, that's great. You've got Caitlin Clark back in the fold, Indiana Fever signing new players. They just signed Kelsey Mitchell to a one-year deal. Now, one of the things that's interesting, and it almost reminds me, Josh, of the NCAA, is their way that their rosters are being put together this year is very last minute. And you have a flurry of free agent signings taking place right now. And I know a lot of that was due to the collective bargaining agreement because you didn't know salary cap, you didn't know pay scales, any of that. So players that were in advance have been waiting for this. So now you've got a flurry going on, including our own Canadian entry into the WNBA. The Toronto Tempo, they have been making some nice signings, and they just also opened up a beautiful new training facility, but they've signed Julie Alaman. They've got Brittany Sykes, Marina Mabry from the Phoenix franchise. So the one thing about the WNBA, and Oakland proved this past year, you do not have to go through a long building phase necessarily to be competitive in the WNBA because of the availability of players. And on Monday, we're going to see some of the great players that were just in the NCAA being drafted as well. Really looking forward to seeing if Lauren Betts goes as the number one pick. I'm pulling for her that she is that pick. Such a class act, such a great player, such a great career, and now a national champion. So WNBA coming up, and of course, Josh, the NBA playoffs. Now, here's my final question to you, Josh. If you could pick one potential first-round matchup to watch that will get you most engaged, what would that be?
That is a wonderful question, and I think to me, that is the 3-6 matchup in the West between your Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets.
I couldn't agree more. I can't think of a more compelling matchup right now that I could point to. Knicks and Raptors, of course, if that does indeed happen, it'll be great to watch because of the Raptors being the Canadian entry. But the idea of the Wolves playing against the Nuggets, particularly with the Nuggets having been knocked out the last 2 seasons by the Wolves, that makes for a real interesting matchup. The Wolves have been a bit of a dog's breakfast this year. I mean, they have a winning record. They're still a very dangerous team. They're a very physical team. They're a bit banged up. Ant has been in and out of the lineup. When he's been in, at times he's very good, at times not so much. Their defense isn't quite at the level it's been at the last few years. They've brought in a couple of new players that have made nice contributions. And then Denver, if Watson is available and is healthy through the whole playoff, I think there's a real edge that you have to give to Denver with the way that they're playing in general. 12 in a row, is it 11 in a row or 12 in a row that the Nuggets have won? They're going into the playoffs with all the momentum in the world with, even though SGA will be the MVP, you and I were just talking off mic that we both believe that Jokic is still the best basketball player in the world.
Yeah. And the Nuggets are on an 11-game win streak. They can close it on a 12-game win streak tomorrow night against the San Antonio Spurs.
That will be interesting because that will be a challenge to their win streak, number one. But number two, it's also going to be interesting to see who actually plays in that game, how important that game is for the Nuggets to continue their win streak, or are they going to rest their stars? And the same with the Spurs. And quite honestly, there's been so much controversy this year, Josh, over load management and tanking. Deservedly so. Shame on the NBA. This has eroded the foundation of the game. Both of those circumstances. The tanking is an embarrassment and load management is a joke. Now, having said that, the only time I think it's forgivable to not play your stars is right before the playoffs. Because a guy like Jokic, he plays a ton of minutes and he will have to play a ton of minutes. So if you can give him a little extra rest, why not? So that'll be interesting to watch. Music coming on is from Worst Days Down. That was my son Ben's band. We are coming up on a very painful time for our family. It'll be 3 years since we lost Ben. The name of this song is David's Song, dedicated to his friend David Finkelman, who also lost his life, passed away from an errant driver. And I don't do this every week because I want anybody's pity. I do this because I want to remind everybody what Ben's life represented, which was to be kind to other people. We don't know what's going on in people's lives, so we should always think the best of each other and always find ways for random acts of kindness. So please tell those that you love them. Tell them that you love them. If you can, if there is such a thing, tell them too much. Don't make the mistake of not telling them enough. Josh, it's been great to be back. Thank you very much, birthday boy.
It's been great to have you back, Paul. It's a pleasure working with you every Saturday.
Likewise, Josh. And have a great time, like I said, on your birthday. Enjoy the Flames game. And folks, enjoy all the action on the court this upcoming week. Stay safe. Hope you have a great week on and off the court. You've been listening to Hoop City with Paul Scher, Josh Fenwick on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Edmonton sports fans stay informed with Sports 14.